opportunities in some of these sectors that will help us weather the present challenges that we're in. So before I go to my main speech, I just want to say a few words too about the challenges. We need to be able to seize the opportunities that are emerging from this time. This is the time for us to deal with many of the problems that are cropping up, to turn what may be seen as disadvantages into advantages. And I know that there are many people who quite rightly may be afraid or wondering what the future will hold because of the uncertainties, because of what they see in the global environment and the domestic environment. And this is understandable, that people should be worried. Business people are worrying about economic indicators. Households are worrying about what will happen to prices in the economy and how they'll cope. I think this is all very legitimate. So are comments that are meant to help us to be able to put together the best policies for the economy. And we are listening, working very closely with the monetary authorities to deliver a good set of policies that will guide us through this time. But there are also a lot of columns that I've read which are instilling fear. And President Franklin Delano Roosevelt of the US said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." We shouldn't be afraid. We know that if we act as one united body and we take this one step at a time, we will be able to get through these challenging economic times. This is not the first time that the country has gone through lower oil prices, and it will not be the last time. But unlike other times, we had actually begun the restructuring and diversification of this economy. If you look, you will see evidence of that. People say we are import dependent. Yes, we import a lot, but also in these past 3 years, imports have diminished by almost $1 billion, equivalent to about 168 billion naira now. So we're importing less of many food items than we used to. That means we are growing more of what we eat here. And that's the basic thing we need to look at. The more we can substitute for things like food, basic necessities, the more we'll be able to take care of ourselves in a manner that does not lead to unjustifiable rise in prices or to fear that people will not be able to make ends meet. So these are the things we need to look at. If you look at many of the things you buy now, just look behind. You see beautiful packaging, and many Nigerians think this is imported from abroad. Actually, many of the goods we consume, domestic consumer good items, they are made here in Nigeria. Some of them, yes, have imported ingredients, but others are made largely depending on what we have here in the country. So let us not be afraid. Let us not respond to the situation by giving in to fear. Those who are packaging fear and austerity measures for us repeatedly, we shouldn't give in to that. We shouldn't give in to politicization of this situation. We should follow steadily a clear head policies that will enable the private sector to thrive and to do well. Those pieces of advice that will help us, that are constructive to the economy, we are open and listening, because if you don't listen to criticism, you'll never improve. But some of the advice, quite frankly, is headed in the wrong direction. Some have said we should print money at this time, and we said what? No. Because printing money encourages inflation, which is worse for the economy and for households. Some have said, why don't you go out and borrow as much as you can? We've also said no, because we have to watch our ability to service the debt. We will borrow judiciously, what we can be able to pay back and what we need to keep us going. Some have said raise more revenue. That's a very good suggestion. But we didn't wait for this crisis to begin raising revenue. 12 months ago, even before the crisis started, we began working on the non-oil revenues of this economy. And when we saw we had a large economic base, we worked even harder. And results are coming in. We've been able to raise up to 75 billion over and above the high targets we had already put in for the agencies that raise revenues in this economy. And we'll continue. We've doubled that target for next year. We'll triple it. And our aim is to raise an additional 480 billion or so over the next 3 years from all sources of non-oil revenue. So these are the things that we're doing, working on raising revenue, trying to curtail leakages within the economy. That is good to do. To trim expenditures in a way that will focus on the priority things we have to deliver, and in a way that will not harm those, the average Nigerian, but focusing on those expenditures of government where we can cut. So I want to repeat this to say to Nigerians, be steady. Don't let fear overtake you. Don't listen to those who are packaging austerity, because that's not what we are packaging. We've been very clear and transparent in the direction in which we are taking the economy. We've reduced the benchmark price to 65 in acknowledgement of the size, in acknowledgement of the drop in prices, to enable us manage much better in the coming year. So it's within this context of steady management of the economy, taking it in steps so that we have, again, what we call a soft landing, working closely with the central bank to make sure that we coordinate properly the monetary and fiscal policies of this country. That is what we are doing, and we are not going to be scared. Panic is not a strategy, I repeat it. Fear is not the way to go. The way to go is to acknowledge the situation we're in and manage it in a way that can get us through the situation that we are facing at the moment globally. And it's in that context, very much so, that we think the insurance sector can be one of the engines to help us through this particular situation. We think that this is a sector that we need to work with, push, support, and grow at this moment. And that's why I'm pleased that we have so many key actors in the industry gathered here today. Insurance and reinsurance companies, insurance brokers and agents, underwriters, actuaries, loss adjusters, various consumer groups, local and foreign investors in the sector, and finally, regulators and those who help to oversee the working of the industry. The insurance industry is an important component of the financial system in any country, because insurance helps in mitigating risks and thereby provides utility for individuals and also for corporations. From economics, we know that risk-averse agents facing uncertainty are better off with insurance, as it helps them to smoothen their consumption and also improve their planning. As finance minister, I can tell you that a vibrant insurance industry promotes savings and investments, increases the overall financial assets in the economy, and drives the development of capital markets. In times of natural disasters such as floods, hurricanes, and droughts, insurance companies also help in providing financing to mitigate the social cost of such catastrophes. Finally, as I said earlier, the insurance industry is a major contributor to job creation across the world. A vibrant insurance industry results in direct job creation for agents, brokers, underwriters, actuaries, and so on, and also indirect jobs for many other industries whose risks are covered by the insurance industry. And this is why it's important for us to do this, because even as we face the challenges, developing this industry so it can employ our young people is a critical element of the strategy of this government. So as you can see, the insurance industry is an important sector, and moreover, it is important business. In developed economies, insurance companies are large financial players. They are amongst the largest institutional investors. They are major shareholders in Fortune 100 companies. They own some of the largest international banks. They are big investors in the bond markets and in private equity funds around the world. For example, in Europe, we know that one of their largest insurers, Allianz,